We are doing this thing live again. Welcome, my beautiful people, to what we are going to call episode 73. Let's go. 73 of the Athletic Philosopher podcast. I am your humble host, Jordan Goldstein, a former university professor in sport history, sport philosophy, sociology, little psychology. What do we say? Things happened at the university, which kind of soured my taste on working A at the academy and B for other people and C for ideas only. And we could go for a long time down this road. But suffice to say, we are not employed by any university anymore. Praise freedom. And we are deep deep in body, mind, and spirit into the world of coaching, online fitness and life coaching intertwined. My own special brand that sort of gets at the spiritual malaise that affects people in terms of the meaning, the purpose, and the quality of their life. So we use fitness, physical consistency, the body as a way to break free of mental limitations, of spiritual willpower issues, and through gaining physical health, through gaining physical vibrancy, we end up smashing through plateaus that are stopping us in life. And I do this both for one on one coaching, but also in my group, which I call the Temple. And that's right now me and 8 other guys in there that are utilizing physical training as this spiritual practice of self knowing. We talk about ancient texts, philosophy ideas. We merge that with our training goals as a way to better understand ourselves and improve ourselves and go on this continual process of overcoming so that we can gain self knowledge and eventually the path towards self mastery. I also serve as the tribal professor, a mindset performance coach on the excellent tribal training that is coached by the excellent himself, Ryan Dreyer. And I bring that same kind of what is the meaning of what we're doing? Why are we spending so much time in this activity, training, and in particular, endurance training towards ultra marathons and Ironman triathlons? So, if you are interested in coaching by me or on our team, I'm going to drop all the information in the show notes down below. I'm also going to drop links to my socials so you can follow me either here on Substack, where I am live streaming this to a bunch of the beautiful people over at Substack, but also on X, where you can find short form ideas on X, long form articles that I'm writing about my ideas, my training, my thought process, but also the way that I coach other people to find success in life, uh, in fitness and through fitness. So you can follow me. You can reach out if you're interested in the group, the temple, one on one coaching opportunities, or if you're interested in something that's a little more, we'll say, seriously oriented around the physical training and the competing, and you like endurance sports, I'll drop down the application so that you can become a team member on Team Tribal. And I forget this always, but if you are listening and you like what you're hearing, it would be kind of cool if you went and dropped a 5-star review over on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or a like or a subscription over at YouTube. Wherever you are consuming this, show the love, show that you appreciate what's going on, because that brightens up my day and it makes my heart grow bigger, which is language that we use with our kids all the time about how kindness and happiness and love make us feel. Makes my heart grow bigger. So if you guys are finding good value, that would be greatly appreciated. All right. Episode 73. What the heck are we talking about today? This is going to be another live philosophizing episode, and it's kind of a bridge off of episode 72, where I discussed these two frames of endurance athletes that kind of came to life in these, we'll call rough sketches. Um, out of my last ultramarathon, which was the Oracle Rumble 50 miler that me and Team Tribal took down together. And I started to think about a little bit of the differences between myself and Coach Ryan as to what brought us to endurance sports, what keeps us in endurance sports, and why we truly believe endurance sports are these incredible places of self discovery, self knowledge, and ultimately these tools of self mastery, because we both share that same belief, but we do practice endurance sports a little bit differently, and that gave me this idea of athletes who love the chase and athletes who love the space when it comes to endurance training. But as so often happens with these live philosophizing podcasts, where I just have a basic idea and then we sort of hit record and then just let the stream of consciousness flow out. It ended up being much more of a self coaching episode where I was talking to myself about myself and my transition from a totally space dominated athlete to one who is now learning how to appreciate the chase part of this equation. I was somebody who ran in the forest as a trail runner by myself, never signing up for a competition for like 9 years, 10 years. And it's only in the past 2 or 3 years where I've been openly signing up for competitions and subjecting myself to the objectivity of the arena and seeing what that exposure does for my own self knowledge, where it's exposing gaps and limits and how I can then improve those with my own determination. And the big thing for me this year, as I talked about in a bunch of podcasts leading up to this, is the year of the race. Like I have all these races, the most races I've ever taken on, and most importantly, races in a discipline that I've never raced in before, which is triathlon. I'm doing the Chattanooga 70.3, which is the half Ironman in May, and I haven't signed up yet, but I will be doing Ironman Florida in November. So I'm doing this sort of transition in between trail runner, bohemian guy into more well-rounded endurance athlete who's got multiple competitions and multiple races under his belt. And when I'm thinking about the chase and when I'm thinking about the space, I'm also being alerted to these more, we'll say, fundamental elements of why sports are these fantastic places of self-knowing. Because ultimately, the space versus the chase frame, that's a neat way to try to understand what brings people towards certain types of sports. But underneath all of this, I have a strong intimation that what I'm really doing with this philosophy of sport that I'm crafting and creating and embodying and living, and the goal is next year to write down or start writing all this stuff down, this philosophy stuff, into a book, that's going to be both theoretical and practical, right? So it's going to hopefully spell out the philosophy that I've been creating with coaching and with my own competing over the past, we'll say, 5 to 6 years, explicitly thinking about this as its own philosophy, one that I'm crafting and creating, standing on the shoulders of obviously other philosophers, titans in the world of philosophy, also a little theology as well. um, but what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about that part today, to go real abstract, to go real conceptual, to go real out there into the ether. Um, so we've got a couple people watching on the Substack Live. I appreciate you. If at any moment you would like to interject with a question, an observation, or a comment, a conjecture, a criticism, whatever it is, I'm watching the chat. So please feel free to participate. I would love for you guys to participate. Make this a little more interactive and as a conversation. But hey, if you're just listening on the background, that's fine too. And I appreciate everybody. So today, episode 73, I have loosely called this the two fundamental truths of sports. Okay. And this is my kind of dive into why sports can teach us about the truth, and not just like the truth about myself or the truth in terms of my effort or the result or anything like that, but like the actual truth, like the existential truth. Um, so I'm not going to be making bold truth claims as about like why we're here, what's the meaning of life, all those things. But what I want to do is at least open up your minds and your hearts to the idea that when I'm exercising and when I have the right intention and when I'm noticing and paying attention to the right things, the secrets of the universe open up to me. And I know things in a very deep way that are related both to subjective knowing, but also are giving me intimations of like the existential truth that's around us. And when I say existential truth, that's like why we exist. What's going on with this whole existence thing? Why is there something rather than nothing? Right. Uh, and again, I'm not going to be making any bold claims, absolute claims. This is just an investigation into some of the things that I think are revealed and why they're revealed in physical activity. And this is not, I don't have like a gigantic page of notes. I wrote down a few simple things just as prompts to help guide the initial foray into this discussion today. Um, I'll be picking, ideas and certain quotes and certain ideas, ideas from other philosophers. But mostly this is going to be me talking off the dome and trying to make sense of, I don't know, the fundamental building blocks of reality and how we experience them. So, first off, before I reveal what I think these two fundamental building blocks are, let me again talk about what kind of a philosophy I'm after. So, I'm not an ontological philosopher. I'm not interested in the nature of being or the nature of the universe. Even though I'm talking about existential things today, I already just mentioned, I'm not interested in these bold truth claims asserting some sort of an absolute declaration on like what is existence, what is the world, what are we doing here. That to me is a useful investigation, but it's one, I think it's above all of our pay grades. As humans, I think we're limited in our ability to comprehend and understand the beyond. Okay. But two, it's just not what I'm interested in as a philosopher. I'm a phenomenologist. I'm interested in a philosophy of experience, right? Something that's grounded in action, but also in the subjective interpretation of each of us as individuals who are living our own unique lives in our own embodied ways. Like I have my own body, everybody out there has their own body. We're all experiencing something called reality together, but reality is extremely amorphous and it's definitely moldable to my individual perception. I have an entire podcast on how physical activity bends reality and shapeshifts reality and alters the actual out there reality with my own internal desire, discipline, and perception. I also have a podcast on the power of your perception about how you change reality based on the way you look at it. So I'm not interested in declaring the absolute truth of what's out there, but I'm interested in the truth as we experience. And there are two fundamental truths. There are two, but yeah, let's go. I got a comment here from my coach, Zach Hummel. What's going on, bro? Thanks for hooking up with this conversation and on this live podcast. He's saying it's true because he knows that you can bend reality to your perception with the power of your thoughts and we'll call it the veracity of the signal that's on your heart. Veracity is this big time fancy word for what's true. So if you listen to the truth of your heart and you match that with the power of your brain, like you can actually start to bend the universe directly towards you. And it's really funny how this stuff works. A little tangent here. This is the ultimate tease right now. I keep saying there are these two things and I'll tell you about them, but I never do. I promise we'll get there. But this idea of like reality literally bending towards you, I so badly experienced this 2 weekends ago when we had the gold medal ice hockey game, Canada versus the United States. And this has been scaffolded on like an entire year of drama in hockey and politics between the United States and Canada. and the United States beat Canada in one of the best hockey games that you'll ever watch, with a golden goal and 3-on-3 overtime, and it just set off this incredible maelstrom in the culture wars where everybody was commenting on the outcome of this hockey game and the meaning of this hockey game, whether you were Canadian or American, like it didn't matter. And I'm literally the guy who knows the most in the world about ice hockey and its meaning when it comes to national identity, and in particular to Canadian identity. So it was not lost on me that for like 5 days, the entire culture war in the Western world bent towards the thing I know more about than any other person in the world. Like, that's very cool. That's a very neat observation to me, but it also goes to show that if you understand like the ways in which you can make reality bend towards you, you actually do bend the arc of time and interest right towards you, like right into your heart. It's wild. So if you doubt that any of this stuff can be true, just observe different things, notice different things, pay attention to different things in the world, and all of a sudden this whole like sphere opens up to you. I think it means Canada has to become the 51st state. I'll save all the talk. I'll save all the. I'll do another podcast on that. I'll do another podcast. 74 will be all on the Olympic gold medal ice hockey game and its meaning, and I'll spin out from that. But effectively, no, that doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. And again, you don't want Canada as the 51st state. I promise you, Americans. It's a funny joke, but like, you want to deal with the French, you want to deal with the Quebecers, then bring Canada in to your country, and you'll recognize this was a big time mistake. This was a big time mistake, and we don't want this. Okay, back to our regular scheduled program, which is just me talking off my dome. Oh my gosh, I appreciate every single one of you for listening to this, and for supporting me. You guys are literally my heroes of life. Okay, enough teasing. What are these two fundamental truths? Okay, the two fundamental truths that are revealed by playing sports, and it's funny because it's actually one truth that's a dualist interpretation. But the things that sport alert me to the most, which are the fundamental building blocks of how I experience the world, number one, breath. Number one is breath. Number two is rhythm. Number two is rhythm. So we have breath and we have rhythm. And these are effectively the same thing. These are effectively the same thing. Think about my heartbeat. Think about that EKG graph, right? When my body is functioning, it's a rhythm. It's a rhythmic production, right? All of the different parts, think of your body, it can be like a symphony, right? They're all being harmonized in rhythm by the beat of my heart, which is expressed by my breath, which is expressed by my breath. So, our two fundamental building blocks of the experience of reality that we are brought into direct contact with through physical training and sports is the breath and it's the rhythm. And we just think about that basic composition of the body right there, that it is all of these disparate parts searching for a harmony, which we call homeostasis in the biological sense, like that my body works best at a particular temperature with a particular heartbeat, right? With a particular cadence of breath, right? We're starting to understand that if we are instantiated in these bodies for some type of a worldly experience, which again may be more theological than it is existential when it comes to philosophy, and I'm not going there today, or maybe ever. I don't think that's my place. Okay, so the most intimate thing in my body is the fact that I breathe. If I don't breathe, I'm not alive. Number one, if I don't breathe, I'm not alive. And breath is connected to this rhythm, Okay. And the breath is a physical act. So then when I say breath and when I say rhythm, what I really mean and this is one of the notes that I wrote down, breath is life and rhythm is movement. Breath is life and rhythm is movement. And they are connected in an infinity wheel together. So it's really a dualistic conception of a single entity, which is like movement and life, movement and life, right? Because that's my experience here. My experience is a living experience. Whatever it means, that's up to you to determine for yourself. I'm merely suggesting this is like the fundamental reality of our existence, that we breathe, we live, and we move. We breathe, we live, we move. And if we have rhythm in between all that, well, we're going to have a sort of a synchronicity of experience that's going to create and drive this deep and profound meaning. It's going to alert me to the meaning of my life when I'm in sync, when I'm in rhythm. And now we can start getting all weird. Now we can start getting all weird because when I talk about rhythm, what am I talking about? Talking about vibrations. Think again about that EKG, that chart that represents my heartbeat. We even talk about it as a beat. Okay. It's a beat, like your favorite hip hop song, right? Like your favorite backbeat of all time, where we put the emphasis on the two and the four. Okay. So we express things in terms of rhythm, the way things fit together and feel, right? We talked about vibes and we talked about groove. Okay. But some of the most out there theoretical physics, the scientists that, they're trying to figure out the math, they're trying to figure out the nuts and bolts of the universe out there. A lot of them have come to the conclusion it's all vibrations. It's all vibrations. Now, whether you believe in something like string theory or you move up to something like quantum mechanics, which is just like vibrations on steroids effectively. Um, the idea is simple, that the universe is built out of rhythm, that the universe is built out of things in connection and rhythm together. That's like the observed and the non-observed of the quantum world, right? Like the thing depends on if I see it or if I don't see it, and then it becomes in connection with itself. So again, that idea of like my perception can alter and change and create reality, that's like kind of a quantum idea based on the way we can observe or not observe these basic weird building blocks that sometimes are in conjunction and connection and in rhythm with each other, and other times they're just chaotic and they're doing these weird things with each other. Nobody is dropping off on the Substack chat. This is great. I'm starting to get into some very out there things, and nobody's dropping off. So this is a good sign. It's a good sign that at least I'm not talking about something completely irrelevant to what people think, that I was going to talk about. So this is a first good signal for me. So we're talking about rhythm. We're talking about rhythm as motion. We're talking about breath as life. Okay, like let's think about sports. Let's think about physical activity. Yeah, yeah. Quantum mechanics suggests perception literally creates reality. Isn't that crazy? These are like the most like experimental physicists, the ones that are at the leading edge, right? The cutting edge. They're out there on the frontier of scientific knowledge. And, I'm a big believer in horseshoe theory, that the opposites that the opposites are actually much closer than a linear theory. So it's like, like the sort of like the communists and the fascists, the only thing that separates them is rhetoric, and they just make everybody poor and they kill people, something like that, right? When it comes to the action. And to me, it's very similar to like the theoretical physicists and the most like hippy dippy out there person who's trying to, like Western person who is trying to somehow use Eastern philosophy but has no idea what they're doing. So they end up like, you know, the yogurt people, the granola people, whatever you want to call them. They're so close. The physical like the theoretical physicists and the woo-woo granola people, the hippies, they are so close together in what they're actually thinking about how we interact with the world, where it's like, it's all vibes, it's all energy, it's good karma, it's in the stars, right? It's astrology. And then on the other side, you have the quantum physicists, that are just like, yeah, perception creates reality, and here's the math that shows why. It's like, okay, that's a cool sign, right? So vibrations, rhythm, how we understand maybe this entire existence would be a series and collisions of vibrations, right? And that things that are in rhythm tend to become realized, like my body. My body is in rhythm. If everything is waves and energy colliding and crashing together, well, whatever creates this body, it's all in harmony with each other. Maybe again, thought about like with homeostasis, where the physical components, the organs, the internal workings, everything is together. So I can stay together, I can be together, and then I can enact rhythm myself, which is action and motion and movement in the world, right? My body has to be composed so that I can go out and do something. Maybe why I have life, maybe why I have breath. Breath activates the rhythm. Breath is the activator of the rhythm. Maybe, maybe not. It's kind of a neat idea. What is the most important part of exercise? Is it the way that the muscles are moving? Is it the actions? Come on now. Everyone knows it's the breath. Everybody knows the breath is the whole thing with exercise and with physicality in general. You do not burn calories in your muscles. You burn calories because you're breathing hard. Right? This is why when you sprint, like you're crushing calories, right? When you're up in those anaerobic and those lactate threshold zones, right? It's because I'm breathing so hard. I'm sucking as much air as possible, and it's giving me the tremendous growth opportunity, right? So one way in which we can think about sports is they're all breathwork practices, which is one actually how I do think about them. They're all breathwork practices. They're all regulating breath. They're all teaching me how to control breath, how to modulate breath, how to bring my breath into a particular rhythm in order to enact a particular motion pattern in life. And when we're talking about something like running, the most natural of all emotions when it comes to physical activity, walking and running, we can put them together. We were born to run, we were born to walk. Pick your poison. Running, I think, for our intent and purpose here, running is the one we should talk about because running is the one that most brings me into contact with breath. It's the one in which I can syncopate rhythm, the rhythm of my feet with the rhythm of my breath, with my pacing, with my arms, with my eyes, with how I'm scanning. Like everything in running is a syncopation. Syncopation is like a very fancy word for control of rhythm, we'll say. Or or normalizing rhythm, standardizing rhythm. It's not exactly what syncopation is, but for this conversation, it's good enough. It's good enough. It'll vibe. It'll vibe together. So running is me syncopating. Running is me syncopating myself. It's orienting myself. And how is this related to life? Okay, like another out there theory of mine. Whether you subscribe to the long theory of evolution or not doesn't matter to me. I think even if you're like a believer in creationism versus a believer in, just like the Big Bang or whatever, I think it's helpful to understand the human body as a continuum, that it has an evolution, that it has evolved, and that there have been different stages. Um, Fit that into your worldview however you want. It doesn't matter to me. Um, but I like the physiological and physical evidence of a long evolution of the human body. Um, and if we just take that frame of sort of this long evolution, and the evolutionary biologists, they place this notion of a fall into consciousness. And for the religious out there, I think it's interesting to think about the fall into consciousness as sort of like when things started to happen for history, or when things started to happen for our ability to know and then talk about these things. Um, so I don't think the world of science and the world of religion necessarily preclude each other from being friends. It's not easy, but I don't think it's like necessarily just one or the other. And black or white answers, I don't think are ever correct in this sphere. We don't know. We're limited. This is why we have the word faith, right? Because we don't know, we're not certain, and faith fills the gap, right? Faith and belief fill the gap as opposed to like certainty of knowledge. Okay. But if we're thinking about this long evolution of the human body, there's a really neat idea that I have, and it's not necessarily substantiated, but I think I could cobble together some good evidence and maybe put it into a book that the fall into consciousness, right? So that would be like humans being just animalistic and just acting on the animal impulses, just like we view in the animal kingdom, into these like more sentient, more complex, more thoughtful beings that understand consciousness, that understand existence, that recognize mortality, that can dream and create and be curious and imaginative and paint out mythologies, right? And use our prefrontal cortex, right? Physiologically, this is when like the prefrontal cortex of the brain dates to, where we end up with our reasoning faculty, right? Where we understand, where we think, where we can synthesize information. And they date that to something like 70,000 years ago. Okay, whatever. That doesn't matter. But what's really cool about this whole like sports can teach us about ourselves and how we experience the world to a fundamental level. Humans had been running for hundreds of thousands of years before this. If you think about this long view of human evolution, if you think of like Homo sapiens, for example, and when we kind of got the body that we have now, it's kind of around this fall into consciousness. You know, our body physiologically has not changed in 50 to 70,000 years in terms of if you were born at back then to a hunter gatherer tribe, it's the same physiology as somebody who's going to be born tomorrow. Same physiology. Okay. So when I'm talking about running and we're talking about breath and we're talking about life, one of the intriguing examples from, we'll call it evolutionary, it's not quite archaeology, anthropology. There you go. From evolutionary anthropology. Duh. So humans have been persistence hunters, right? And we've been running long distances for lots and lots of time. And this information is compiled in a really neat book. It's called It was called Racing the Antelope. Um, but now I believe the title is Why We Run. And it's by a scholar named Bernard Heinrich. Very cool book. Very cool book. Definitely check that out. Maybe I'll put the link in the notes page if I can compose myself and remember. Um, we'll see. No promises. One of the things that running does is it forces your breath to be more intense than walking. I think that's obvious in terms of jogging versus walking. It's a little more intense on the body. It's a harder motion, even if it's rhythmic, right? It's going to force more breath. It forces more breath. But you know what happens when I force more breath into my body and I've not yet, we'll say, fallen into consciousness? I don't have the prefrontal cortex yet. The body responds to that physiological impulse. So if I'm running and I'm this ape like species over hundreds of thousands of years, what happens to me? My body starts to shape itself towards running. So I lose my body hair, for example, right? Why? Because it makes it easier for me to sweat. Sweating is an evolutionary adaptation of the human body to running. Right? All the other mammals, when they can't sweat because they're all covered in fur and hair, so heat can't escape through like their skin. Where does heat escape? The dog pants, right? On the hot day. But if the only way for heat to escape my body is through my mouth and through my breath, well, shoot, I'm gonna be a very limited runner, right? Just wear 7 layers or whatever the next time you go running and see how easy it is for you to breathe and go quickly. It's bad. It's not going to work for you because you can't regulate your body temperature. You can't get back to homeostasis the proper rhythm of the human body. Like that's what sweating is. Sweating is cooling the internal temperature to get everything back in alignment with each other, to have all the vibes working. So if I'm running over time, my body is going to become adapted to the running. The other thing that happens over time is my foot changes. The actual structure of my foot changes so that I have a natural walking gait, which humans already had in a sense. If you think about like monkey hands and monkey feet, they're perfect for climbing. They're the best for climbing and swinging from tree to tree. Once humans moved out from the trees and onto the plains as these hunters, the foot changed and the hands changed, right? Hands are grabbing, crafting, throwing hands, and my feet are walking and running feet. My foot is naturally designed. So when someone tells you barefoot running is a bad idea, you say, I actually was born to barefoot run. Shoes messed me up. Shout out Austin Keith, barefoot whale, bam. Your foot was made to run physiologically. Okay, so there's just two examples of the physiology of the human body being changed over time by sport, by running. And the running is this long distance persistence running where it's like jogging, lots of jogging in order to track down a wounded or injured animal or to chase it until it effectively has cardiac arrest. Right? That's the successful hunting strategy of these hunter-gatherer societies, hunter societies out in the African savannas. We're talking about this long evolution of the human body. Okay, so there's two. What does the breath have to do with all this? Okay, so if I'm running and I'm taking in more breath, guess what grows? Guess what grows to respond directly to this need to be able to take in and process more oxygen at a more effective and more efficient manner? It grows my brain. The brain grows over time in direct accordance with running demands. So it is not hyperbole to stretch the idea that running makes man conscious. Running makes man conscious. Physical exertion, which necessitates a more proper intensity of breath, gives us consciousness. You want to talk about the spiritual idea of the breath of life, of God creating and breathing life into humanity with words and I mean, could those things not be similar? Could they not be the same? Could the fall into consciousness not be the breath of life being put into humanity through our own exertion? Why not? Why not? When we understand it this way, we start to get a little bit of a handle. We start to get a little bit of an understanding as to how deep this stuff can go, of what we can actually learn by properly bringing our body into a rhythm that is in accordance with my life. Oh, now we're starting to really get somewhere. We're really starting to get it when I syncopate rhythm and breath. When I syncopate rhythm and breath, I can become. I can become. And that's the story that might literally explain why we are here in bodies with the knowledge that we're here in bodies. Ultimate paradox is the paradox of life. Ultimate paradox is the paradox of life. We're alive. We don't know why we're alive. We know we die. We don't know why we die. But we do know that we will figure out the meaning of life only when we die. Have fun with that one, brain. Have fun with that one, rational brain. Ugh, you see why we need faith? That's why we need faith. Okay? That's why we need faith. So, this breath and rhythm idea gives us a little bit of a backdoor understanding into this paradox of life. Oh, if we if we became conscious through this connection of rhythm and breath through running, the fall into consciousness, the breath of life being breathed into humanity, it's for action, it's for motion, it's for movement, it's for doing things, it's for experiencing things. It's even for the experience of the stillness in the Taoist idea, like that the stillness is the real motion, right? And anybody who's done meditation knows this. Anyone who's done breath work knows this. Anyone who's done like fasting work or darkness work knows this. It's the stillness, it's the absence of that provides this tremendous meaning or opening or what? Knowing, right? Or knowing. So maybe we're in the bodies in order to get a kind of an intimate understanding of the connection between breath and rhythm that can be experienced inside these bodies. And maybe there's something in between breath and rhythm that relate ultimately to the idea of good and evil, which I'm not going to touch in this one because I would never shut up. And that's not great. But that wasn't really the point. Maybe we'll do a third one. We'll do a third one when we connect all this to morality and moral action in the world. Hey, actually, that's not a bad idea. That's definitely not a bad idea. Maybe we'll do a third one. Maybe we'll do a third one right after this. Next week, that will connect to moral action. And then maybe we'll pause on the gold medal game. Who knows? Who knows? Um, so we're not touching the moral action thing today. We're just interested in the rhythm of the breath and life and expressed and understood through sport. So let's quickly return to that idea that all sports are breathwork practices. Okay. How then do sports teach me about just the fundamental building blocks of reality? And I'm not talking necessarily about like molecules and chemicals and quarks and atoms and things like that. That's ontological. I don't care about the ontology. I care about the experience, remember? I care about the phenomenology of this whole thing. So the connection of breath and rhythm is my way to experience the world. So therefore, any activity that I engage in, which connects me intimately to the knowledge of breath and rhythm, is going to open up the world to me. It's going to open up a meaning to my existence that I can live. I think, is the beauty of art. This is the power of art. When I talk about this, I'm thinking about music. Like that's what I'm thinking about. And I think music and sport are very similar in their capabilities to teach us deep truths about ourselves, why we're here. Because what is music? Music is how I understand the mathematics of rhythm. It's how I feel rhythm inside of my heart. It's the beautiful part of music that I can connect to the emotion, as the mechanical part of music is actually working inside of me in terms of the way that the octave works, the way that certain patterns of rhythm work, the way that polyrhythms can affect me, the way that dissonant notes can affect me, the way that a simple pattern, a 1-4-5 of the blues scale, can be universally revered and understood, right? The way different scales hit, like the emotion of a minor scale versus the emotion of a major scale, right? The relationship between tones. All these things, when compiled and placed together, modulated through the breath. If you think about singing, for example, someone who's a vocalist is like this ultimate master of breath. There's somebody who can understand how to draw breath from the top of their body, from the bottom of their body, right? How to project out sound, how to hit all the different frequencies and vibrations. Now I'm thinking of somebody like Mike Patton with his, I think it's like a 4-octave scale he can sing in, or a 5-octave scale. It's crazy. You want to know why that guy is a musical genius? Is because he can do that with his breath, right? He can sing opera, he can scream death metal, he can rap, he can do anything he wants with his voice because he's a master of breath and he rhythmically releases it in song. So now the athlete becomes a very similar type of an artist who can open up a window of understanding into the beyond by using that particular artistic skill and expression, which is the mastering of breath and rhythm. Think about it's literally every sport. Think about weightlifting. Think about the power lifters. Think about swimming. Golly, think about it's literally every single sport is the combination of rhythmic motion and breathing and breath, right? So when I'm inside of sports, when I'm inside the activity, when I'm paying attention to like the way my breath is interacting with my feet, for example, like when I'm trail running, these are the moments where wisdom comes, for me at least. It's like when I'm in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing at the right pace for the right reason, then the answers come to me. And given that everything is a vibration, like where I am is a big deal. Like my coordinates on the map, that's a big deal. Just thinking about this, trying to give some respect to the astrology people, like it's all in the stars. Well, if I'm born at a particular time at a particular GPS coordinate, like that's an individual instantiation in the universe. Like nobody else gets to be born in the place where I'm born at the time that I'm born. Like that's my own unique coordinate in this vast array of we'll call what the rhythm of time, right? If you think about the bars in music, my life is a note. It's one note that's being played in a succession, of notes. So if I can properly like merge myself with the rhythm of the universe that can be revealed to me through a deep self knowing, well, then I'm going to actually put myself into positions where I'm going to be able to feel the rhythm. I'll feel the ride. Come on, boys. It's bobsledding time. Cool Runnings, best sports movie. One of top three sports movie by far. Not joking. Literally top three sports movie of all time. Must watch. Always a must watch. And so I'm not looking to come to some sort of like grand conclusion here. What I'm doing is exploring the ideas. I'm exploring the thought. And I think this idea of the breath and of the rhythm, while it's certainly loose in this presentation, it's loose in this presentation. I think it's sound, and I have a lot of confidence in putting it out here. Um, I just want to pull up my notes here to see like what else I want to talk about, but I have a feeling it's not that much because I don't usually make a lot of notes. Rhythm of oh yeah, that's a neat one. Um, yeah, okay. One of the things that like solidified to me that I want to talk about this because I had this idea last week. So maybe we'll just segue into this sort of story and then we'll see how I can figure out how to wrap this up. But this has been a very cool exploration. This is like a real deal exploration and thought. Some of the things I've said probably make no sense and probably don't even connect to each other and may actually contradict each other. Super cool. Love it. Thanks to everybody for hanging out on the Substack too. I haven't got one person to drop off of this. Yeah, that's super awesome. Thanks, guys. Like, really. Um, what solidified in my mind that I wanted to talk about this was I was just having a little bit of an intimate discussion with the rabbi of our synagogue. We went to it's a young family is a Shabbaton, and a Shabbaton is just like a Shabbat away. It's a Shabbat convention. So it was us and a bunch of young families from the synagogue. Ended up being about 9 young families, and the rabbi and his young family. So it's like we're doing things for the kids. We're up at the Great Wolf Lodge, so it's like Shabbat is on the water slides, which is hilarious. But at one point, there's this adult learning session. And last year, I remember the adult learning session was really great. And it was more political. This one was much more theological, which I appreciated. And today, isn't it? The rhythm of this all is so awesome. It's so awesome to have this rhythm because today is Purim. Today is Purim, and maybe I'll talk about the religious and theological significance of Purim. But it's a Jewish holiday. It's a very interesting holiday. It's like a non-biblical holiday, and it's the only like holiday that we have where God is not even like mentioned in the story. It's pretty weird. But it's a great holiday. It's another one of those commemorates when the Jews should have been wiped out, but hey, we were saved. We were saved. Awesome. Woohoo! We have a lot of those. We have a lot of those holidays. Interesting. Also something to note and observe about Jewish people right there. Um, okay, so today's Purim, and we were talking about Purim, right? And the way that the rabbis talk about this, because Judaism is such an old religion, we used to not have rabbis. We used to have high priests who did animal sacrifices. And now we don't have a temple and we don't do animal sacrifices. So we have rabbis, which are these like stewards of thought and tradition and of law and of interpretation. And the great tradition is to discuss and debate and to open up the spectrum of theology. The rabbi said Judaism was a spectrum of theology, which I just loved that. Thank you, Rabbi Fine. Like that was a fire line. That was the big takeaway of the line is that it's a spectrum. Theology is a spectrum, which is awesome. I love that. I absolutely love that. But as he's talking about sort of like Purim and the religious meaning of it, it's this transition period for Judaism where we go from the outward miracles of God to the inward miracles of the heart. So that it's human action that creates the miracles in the world that God, sets in motion, as opposed to like the old, like the Exodus story where God is splitting the Red Sea and, you know, slaying the firstborn and all this outside of human action when it comes to miracles. And he related this to the way in which people pray but they don't ever hear from God, right? There's people that come to him and they say, I pray and I don't hear God or God doesn't respond. And then the rabbi says, I haven't seen you in synagogue in 4 years. What do you mean God's not? It's like you don't know what you're doing. Like you don't actually know how to pray. You don't know how to communicate. You don't know how to actually reach up so that you can be connected. And he used the word rhythm 3 times in that description. He used the word rhythm in 3 times in just that description of like this cadence of prayer or this ritual. And he's also taking aim at the people who just show up in synagogue and they just mouth the words, right? But they're not actually like spiritually invested in what they're saying. It's more to like carry a nice tune and have the lunch afterwards, right? It's more cultural than it is religious or spiritual. And he used the word rhythm like 3 times. And I'm just thinking, it's all rhythm. Like it's all rhythm. Because then what's he talking about? He's talking about rhythm of prayer, which is breath. Prayer is breath. Okay. So it's like, this stuff really can be seen everywhere. And I spent this whole like adult study session. I don't ask the questions because I want to give other people space because they don't generally talk about these things. I'm like consumed with these thoughts 24/7. So I just like to be silent. And usually what happens is I'll reach out to the rabbi afterwards with some observations. But the whole thing was all about training. I was just like, this is all just training. This is all the syncopation of rhythm and breath and attention and intention and the signal of my heart and actualizing the signal of my heart through my actions, right? So it's like the heart is a transmitter where I pick up the vibrations and where I pick up the rhythm. And then the breath of my life brings it into being, manifests it. And if it's on target, if it's on aim, well, then I do good. I reach my potential. I have a purpose, I have a meaning. But I cannot know that if I'm not consciously recognizing the cadence and movement of my breath and how it syncs with the movement or the rhythm of my life. So for me, and this goes back to the space talk of the last podcast, right? The space versus the chase. Running gives me the space. It gives me the space to feel my breath. And it gives me a chance to listen to the rhythm of my heart, the vibration and the signal that's inside of my heart that is in quantum entanglement with something out there. Whatever, I don't care. That's the truth, guys. The truth is your heart is a vibrant it's a vibrations transmitter. It transmits and deals in rhythm. And there's a quantum entanglement with something out there that when I observe the rhythm that's in here, something gets turned on out there. Something gets turned on out there. Okay. And again, that's the way quantum works. Things observed and things unobserved end up with different outcomes. And this down to like the basic building blocks of reality and existence in the universe in the quantum world. So when I'm out running in the forest for 2 hours without my phone and without my headphones, I get the dang signal because I'm breathing and moving in the proper rhythm with the world around me. And I've been practicing it. The practice itself is a rhythm, the ritual itself is a rhythm, right? Showing up to synagogue each Saturday and doing the same type of prayers is its own consistent and predictable rhythm in life. Hey, the seasons are a rhythm: winter, spring, summer, fall, all back into each other, all transitioning in and out. This is a rhythm. This is the cycle of time, the circle of time, which is its own revolution, its own disc that goes around and around the groove like a record. Spin me right round, baby, right round. Like a record, baby, right round. Okay? And that's how sports alert me to the fundamental truths of reality, which as I experience them can be, I think, properly deduced down into these two things, which is really just one thing, which is really just one thing: breath and motion intertwined, breath and rhythm, life and movement. And it's no coincidence to me that the activity that best expresses this relationship between breath and motion, physical activity, intentional physical activity with the eye of perception onto these learning elements. This doesn't just happen to anybody who runs. I have to have my mind and my eyes and my heart open to all this stuff. That's when I get reset. That's when I get the knowledge. That's when I get the received wisdom. That's when I get the divine inspiration. Then and only then. So, right place, right time, right actions, right motions, right rhythm, right intention, right? The intention makes all the difference. The proper intentional vibration I put inside of my body unlocks the things that are out there for me, unlocks the things that are out there for me. So when I'm aligning them all together, I end up learning the most about everything all at once. Ain't that wild, guys? I find that incredible. I find it mind blowing. I find it so fascinating that I decided to get on here and just spout off without any sources, without any evidence. But nobody left. And that to me signals that there's a resonance out there. There's a resonance out there for this idea, and that people want more. They're craving more. They're craving depth and breadth and understanding. And if I can just use the physical this way with this intention, there is no limit to what I can learn. There's no limit to what I can learn about the world and about myself and about how I move through it, why I might be here to move through it. And it goes back to this very cool Aristotelian idea, which is I can never learn anything that I didn't already know. Right? I can never learn anything I didn't already know. So it's always inside me. It's always been inside me. It will always be inside me. I just need to figure out a way to bring it out. To bring it out. Final word on rhythm, and then we'll wrap this up. I make a lot of jokes around one band in particular when I talk about this, and that band is Meshuggah. So if we got any metal fans out there, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you're not a metal fan and you've never heard of this band, number one, if you go and listen to them right now, like they will offend your ears in ways your ears didn't even know they could be offended. Um, the whole point of Meshuggah is to not have melody. It's to not have melody. It is an experiment in rhythm, an extreme rhythm. So we're talking about songs that have maybe one or two notes, but it's all complexity and rhythm. And they do this with a death metal aesthetic, even though it's really like an experimental jazz band. Like these guys are nuts. They write their songs on computers. They have a mathematical software program that they write their songs on, and they finish the songs before they even touch their instrument. So they write songs and then they have to learn how to play them on their instruments. Because what they're doing is they're experimenting with the limits of rhythm. And they do that with polyrhythms, with playing multiple rhythms on top of each other. So at times it feels like it's chaos. And I think that this is just such a great way to understand the world and life. Props, Meshuggah, you guys are awesome. Honestly, like it's wild how this stuff works. You know, your life's like a polyrhythm. Your life is like a whole bunch of different things all happening at once. They seem like they're all disjointed and disconnected, and that nothing is really sticking. Nothing is really sticking. All right. But then all of a sudden, all the rhythms align. And when you're listening to Meshuggah, it's like I'm being bombarded, like with all of these. Number one, the sounds are just like really harsh because it's like the lowest tuned guitars and there's no melody. And the guy is like just screaming into your ear. It's kind of like having like a pneumatic drill put into your head. And then so it sounds like. And it's like chaos. But I tell you, if you're a metal fan, they're your favorite band's favorite band. They're the musician's band. They're the craftsman's band. They're the one that everybody who's practicing and who's in the game looks at and they're like, those are the guys. Those are the musicians that are pushing it so far forward in such an elite way that every single person respects them, right? Like they're your musician's favorite musician type of deal. And it's like you listen and it's all weird and confused, but then everything hits for a moment. And it's like, boom, inside of you, something opens up where you're like, oh my gosh, I see the beauty of this. I just felt something I'd never felt before. Everything just clicked into alignment. And so often that just happens in life where you're pushing in all these different areas and it doesn't feel like you're making progress. Then all of a sudden it's like one thing happens. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's all been working towards this. It's all been working towards this. How often does that happen in training? How often does that happen in training too? All the time. Okay. So in music, like we have this Meshuggah example of the different polyrhythms all working differently. And then all of a sudden, in one moment, coming together in this profound experience where it just clicks and then I'm hooked. And then I'm hooked into it. And I have an understanding and I know and I'm deep inside of it. That's exactly the same thing that what happens when I'm running. Not every run is like gonna sync up. Like sometimes it's a 4-4 and a 7-5 and a 3-2, and they're all doing weird things. But then somehow, boom, they all line up and like I hit the PR or I transcend, right? Or it's like everything comes together in a moment because the rhythms are syncing up. The patterns are lining up together. And I just think that this understanding of rhythm and breath together, you can see that it stretches so far and it can be used to describe this in so many intriguing and different ways that there's something there. There's something deep about the breath and rhythm and its connection together that could possibly be some answer into our existential dread or our existential inability to know. Like, I'm not suggesting that this is life. I'm suggesting that if I use this as a frame for my own life, I'll know more than I ever thought I ever could. And I'll be able to know it in an embodied way where I see it happening and feel it happening in my body. I can understand it and sync with it in my mind. And then I can vibe with it through the resonance and the frequency of my heart. Like, that's where we're at with this discussion today, and that's where we're going to end it, right? Because we have to be embodied. We have to be body, mind, and spirit, separate but connected. And understanding this allows me the depth of experience in my life that is going to point me towards the deepest truth, the deepest meaning, the deepest potential, and the deepest purpose that I can have for my life. So the two fundamental truths of reality that are brought to me by physical training, the breath and rhythm. And next episode, let's connect this to moral action. Let's connect this to good and evil, which may be more over the why we're here in these bodies answer than we kind of got to today in this session. But this is like a 3-parter that could be turned into a 100-parter, and maybe will. And this is why I have to write a book eventually. It's quite obvious. So thanks everybody for sticking with this. Thank you to everybody on the Substack Live. That's amazing. This thing just grew over time. So thanks for sticking around and listening to this guy literally create on the fly. I really appreciate you guys. And for those listening, I'm really enjoying this live podcasting thing. So definitely subscribe to the socials because it's either on X or it's either on Substack where I'm doing these live podcasts. So if you want to catch it in real time, subscribe there. Give me if you enjoyed it and you're truthful, 5-star review. That's a big help. I use this kind of stuff in my coaching all the time. Certainly in my coaching group, which is a philosophical, spiritual based fitness group where this is the kind of thing we're discussing. Give you an example. We talked about the idea of the burnt offering sacrifices in the Old Testament and connected that to the idea of burning calories as those righteous sacrifices of self on the weekend. So if you like this kind of talk and you want more of it in a training sense, we have a group that's just dedicated to that. So hook me up in terms of contact information, which is in the show notes. Or if you want to know how this stuff can work one-on-one, because we're talking now about the individual vibrations of your heart, again, contact information is there. If you're watching on Substack Live, just shoot me a message on there. And that's that. Thanks, everybody, for listening and for vibing along with the frequency of this guy's heart and with the resonance of this guy's mind. It means the world to me. So thanks so much. And we'll see you in the next one. Peace and love. My phone is about to die. We only got 2 left, so I had to cut it. But thank you, everybody on Substack, for watching. You guys are my heroes. Thank you so much. Peace and love. We'll do it again next week.